When I was a little girl, I used to love fairy tales. Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, it was my favorite. I was always encouraged how they would take something so broken and it would end up so beautiful. Well, as I've gotten older, I've come to realize life is not a fairy tale at all. It's very real. But you know, God can take our brokenness and He can make something so very beautiful. So join me as we explore chapter by chapter stories of faith, determination, and courage of people that you may very well know. You may not think you do, but we all have a story to tell.
My name is Natalie Morrison, and this is my story. So I was born in England. My mother lived in England, and my father was in the Navy. And when my mother graduated school, her and her friend moved to Spain. And she was working in Spain as a bartender. And there was, I think it was Rota, Spain, where a lot of the Navy guys went to. They ported over there. And so my mom met my father over there in Spain. And then she came back over to England and had me. And then we lived there for a little while, for about a year, and then we came to the States. And we actually moved back to Spain, and then we moved back to the States. We moved around a lot, for what my mother tells me, because I was so small. We were living in Mississippi. At the time my father left, I was 5, and we were living in Mississippi. But my mom had made friends with some of the other, because we were living on a Navy base there. And so my mom had made friends with some of the other wives that my father was working with. And they were actually moving over here, or they were actually moving over to Milton, Florida. And so that's how my mom got us over to Milton, Florida, through those friends. And so we moved over to Milton for a little while. And then we actually ended up moving back over to my granny's house in Palaca, and she helped take care of us for a little while. And then we had to go stay with my aunt for a little while, so we had to move around a lot while my mother got adjusted, raising us by herself. So we ended back up in Milton. She got reconnected with those friends, so we ended back up in Milton in Florida, and then we found the house that I grew up in. And how we got that house was the family that my mother had met through the military base in Mississippi. They were moving to Washington, so they let us stay with them for a little while in that house until they moved, and then my mother was able to get the house. And then me and her and my sister grew up in that house. My mother took us to church when we were younger, and it was the connection through the family that we had met. They were going to this church, and it's Victory Life Church in Milton, and actually grew up in that church. And it was a non-denominational church, so we had prophets come in, and we spoke in tongues, and so I'm used to that, being around that kind of church and that background. Whenever we would go to youth camps, and we would go to Dothan, Alabama every year. And I actually, at the age of 13, accepted Jesus into my heart. So my teenage years, probably when I got into about high school, when I was going into high school, of course I was worried I just started having anxiety about going to high school. And because I was a very shy person, and so I didn't get involved in any school activities. Like, I was on the yearbook staff because it was very low-key. You just had to sit in a room and, do the yearbook, so you didn't have to be out in front of everybody. So that kind of worked for me to do that. But I was kind of having trouble finding my place in high school, and I felt like I had to be accepted, and I wanted to be accepted, but I didn't feel like I was, but I wanted to be, and I didn't know where to fit in. And I didn't realize from, my younger years, the rejection that I'd held down inside of me till I got to high school, and then I felt like I wanted to be accepted by everybody, and so I wanted to make sure I had, the clothes and the hair, and I had to look my best, and so I began making myself throw up and making myself, starve myself, and I did this for about almost 3 years, just trying to achieve something that I thought everybody else had. I just really struggled with self-image in school, and so the people that I found to hang out with were just people who didn't care, and so I began smoking cigarettes, began smoking pot, I began going to parties, and that helped me relax, to drink, to go to parties and relax, and then I would want to just, I wanted boys to like me, and so I would drink and try to be like that fun party girl, and because, I thought that was how you showed people that, you wanted to be their friend or that you liked them, and so I struggled with that a lot. It wasn't until I was about 17, I ended up having my stomach pumped because I was trying to impress somebody, and it didn't work out for me. And so I knew that was the wrong thing to do, and that was a terrible experience. And my mother, she made me go do that because she wasn't going to put up with that in her house. I was just really rebellious, and I was sneaking out at night. She would tuck me into bed, basically, and I would go right back out the window. And I did this for about 2 years. I disrespected her house, and I didn't care at the time. I was still living in her house when I was 20, and I got pregnant with my daughter, Hannah, and I wasn't married, and my mother was very, very disappointed in me. And so she didn't kick me out, but I felt so bad about, because she had taught me better than that. And so I ended up moving in with her dad, and we got an apartment somewhere. And of course we were barely making it. And then we ended up getting married 2 years later. When she was 2, we got married. And then we had my other son. Me and Bobby were really young, and when we got married, and we didn't have any kind of counseling or anything, we just kind of felt like it was the right thing to do. Everybody said, you need to get married, you have a kid, you need to get married. So we got married, and so we had my other son about 4 years later, and we moved to Kentucky. We tried to make it work here, but we were trying to do it on our own once again, and it failed. And so we ended up moving back to Florida, and we moved in with his parents, and we just couldn't make it. We just could not figure out how to make it, but we were trying to figure it out on our own. And I knew what my mother had taught me, and I wasn't doing anything my mother had taught me to do. Wasn't going to church, wasn't tithing, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't in the Word, I wasn't doing anything I knew I was supposed to be doing. I wanted to do it my way. So we ended up leaving Florida, and we came back to Kentucky. And so we were living here for about 2 years, and still not, my mother would be like, have you found a church yet? Have you found a church yet? And I'd be like, no, Mom, I will, And I still wasn't doing what I knew I needed to do. And I was still trying to do it my way. And I was like, I'll do it. So I had a job, and I was working every Sunday, so which didn't bother me. I was like, I just need to make money. We got to make ends meet. This is what I need to be doing right now. And so I was working every Sunday, and then I started finding myself feeling like I would just have these lows, and I would just stay in the bed. Like, I would send the kids to school, and I would just stay in bed all day until they got home. And I did this every day and until I had to go to work. And so if I wasn't at work, I was at home in bed. You know, I had the curtains closed and I had the TV on. I was laying there watching soap operas all day. Like, I wasn't doing anything productive at all. And so I'd call my mom, and she'd be like, have you found a church yet? Have you found a church? I'm like, no, Mom, I will find a church. You know, I'm like, I will go look. So finally I had a Sunday off. And so I was like, okay, Mom. So I can call my mom and say, hey, I found a church, you know. So I went and I visited a couple churches, and I wasn't what I was used to growing up. It wasn't, you know, I wasn't getting anything out of it. And so I was like, I'm not going back to this church. Somebody had invited me to a drench service at Life of Christ. And I was like, well, that sounds fun, you know. He's like, it's just nothing but, you know, music the whole time. It's praise and worship. And, you know, I was like, well, that sounds fun, you know. And so I was like, okay, I'll come check it out. And so I came to the drench service, and I've been here ever since. Like, I have not left. Like, I knew when I walked in the door that this is where I was supposed to be at. And everybody was just so friendly and just greeted me with hugs and smiles and we're glad you're here. And, you know, it was like, and it just felt good, you know, when you walked in the door. And the worship, oh my gosh, like, my soul was just crying. I was crying, my soul was crying, and because I knew that I had been missing so much. And I knew what I was supposed to be doing, and I wasn't doing it. And so God really just drenched me that night. And I haven't left, you know. I've been here since, because this is where I belong. Coming here to Life in Christ really changed my life in a lot of ways, and it changed my family. I was working every Sunday, and when I was working on Sundays, I didn't mind working on Sundays. I was like, I just need to make money, you know. But when I came, it was like I wanted to go back. And so I actually began praying about it to God and saying, God, you know, if you could just find a job for me, you know, where I can be off on Sundays, you know, because I was working at a restaurant, and of course we were open every Sunday. And I said, I need to be in church, because whenever I came to the drench service and I went home, I was like, you know, I've got to get back there. And so that changed for me, as far as not just being so careless about it and being like, okay, you know, I'll go to church when I go to church. You know, not because just I knew better, but because I felt it, you know, like it shook my soul when I came here to that service. And it was just an awakening for me. And so I began to pray to God about, you know, I need to be at church on Sundays. Like, I need a job where I can still make the money that I need to make and be able to go to church, because I know I need to be there. And I prayed about it for a few months, and it was probably, you know, not too long after that, a month, you know, 2 months or so after that, 3 months maybe. My son was playing basketball with the middle school, and one of the girls from one of the other mothers came to me and said, I know about, you know, a job opening. We had become friends, and she's like, I know about this job opening, and she said it's Monday through Friday, and, you know, it's basically school hours. And I was like, that is so perfect, you know. And so I prayed about it, and I was like, God, I was like, I really need this job. And I was like, you know, I really want to go to church. And I said, if you make this happen, I said, I'm going to church. And so he did. I got the job, and I was able to come to church. And I was even able to come on Wednesday nights too, because I didn't have to work Wednesday nights, and I was so excited. I didn't get to hear the teaching whenever I was at the drench service, so getting to come here and hear the word, and growing up, you know, my pastor growing up, he was a very strong, you know, faith-based preacher as well. And so when I came here and heard the teaching that Pastor Chris was teaching, he teaches a lot about faith, and that's my favorite kind of teaching is faith, because I need to hear that all the time. And not that I ever lose my faith, but I just need my faith, kind of just built up every single day. And I just love to listen to faith teachings. And not that I ever forget about it, but it just helps build it up, And so it's really just helped me grow stronger, and not wanting to give up when things happen in life, and being able to see things, here, and believing for those things. Because before I thought, you just have a dream, and it's a dream, and it's never going to come true, and but that's not true. If you see it and you have faith, then it'll come to pass. And I never really believed that before. So that was a big deal for me, that you can speak things and, see those things and speak those things, and have faith that those things are going to, happen for you. And so, there's still a lot of things that I'm believing for, but I know they're going to come to pass. And so whatever you're going through, you just have to have faith, and that God's going to do those things for you, and not give up. No matter how long and how hard you have to wait for things, it's going to come to pass. You just have to be patient. So giving your heart to Christ doesn't mean that you're not going to go through tough seasons, because you will. And I've been going through a pretty tough season lately, and but I know I'm not alone. So that makes it a lot easier to go through. Growing up, it was just me, my mom, and my sister. And this February, my sister passed away. And that's probably been one of the hardest things in my life to deal with, because I wanted so much more for her, and so did my mom. And she was taught better, and she had support, and she had family who loved her, and she had family who spoke into her, and she had family who prayed for her. And she chose to not let God's voice be the loudest in her life. She was going through some things. She was going through depression, and she just gave up. I don't ever want to give up. I don't ever want the devil to win. I don't ever want the devil to have any glory in my life. And I want to give God all the glory. And so at the end of whatever season that I'm in, God gets all the glory for it. No matter what it was, no matter good or bad, God gets all the glory. And this part of that season was tough. I've recently gone through a divorce, and my mother was recently diagnosed with cancer. So that's the season that we're in right now. But we know that she's healed. And this is just the process that she's going through. But it's already done. So we are not concentrating on cancer. Cancer's dead. And we're not going to dwell on that. I just want to say that whatever you are going through in life, let God guide you through that. Let God hold your hand. Let God carry you. Let God be the loudest voice, because God is the most important voice in your life. And God will always put people in your path to help get you through those times. And that's why it's so important to be connected to, a church. And this is why I love my church so much, is because I'm so blessed to be connected to the women here that I'm connected with, and the pastors that I'm connected with, because they're so much more than just getting up on stage and giving you a message. They're sitting over your bed praying for you all night long. They are speaking into your life. They are checking on you. They are just praying for you nonstop all the time. And I just want to encourage you that whatever you're going through, just stay close to God and find those connections and let God put those people in your path to help you get through it, because you're not alone. God's with you always. One of the times I really had to stand on my faith was through a health issue that I had. I was diagnosed with supraventricular tachycardia, and that's where your heart just beats crazy. It's like you're running a marathon, but you're standing still. And it would do it just out of the blue. And so it happened to me a few times, and I had already had one heart ablation, and I was believing and speaking and telling it, you know, you're healed, you're healed, you're healed. And I'm not going to be on medication anymore. I'm not going to be on medication for the rest of my life. Like, this is done. But it happened again. We were at a women's conference in St. Louis. Out of the blue, I was sitting there. Joyce Meyer, I think, was actually speaking. And I think Lacey was sitting next to me, and I reached, my heart just started like racing. And I said, Lacey, I was like, put your hand on my heart right here. I was like, just feel it, you know. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, it's crazy. And I was like, I'm just going to get up. I'm going to go walk out. Like, I'm just going to go step outside for a second. And so I went out there, and it just kept getting faster and faster and faster and faster. And so not that I have like a panic attack, but it just, with everything, like, you know, racing, and my body's just acting weird. I just start like, you know, I can't breathe. So Sue comes out, the girls come out, and they just start speaking to me, praying over me right then and there. Like, okay, you know, they're speaking into me, they're praying over me. I had to go to the triage area in the arena. And so the lady's like, you're going to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like, I can, like, this is going to stop. I'm going back in there. She's like, no, you're going to the hospital. And so we had to wait on an ambulance. And so Sue rode with me in the ambulance to the hospital. And so we get there, and I've had this done before, so I knew what they were going to do, but I was praying it was going to stop before they had to do it. So they had to go in, and they had to stop my heart so they could get it beating regular again, because it was it was about 215, I believe, at the time. And it had been that way for, this was about 2 hours now, and it hadn't stopped. And so they had to go ahead and stop it for me and then restart it. But they had to keep me there the whole night. Sue stayed right there with me, and she prayed over me. She spoke into me, and she prayed for me, and she you know, she called my family, and she made sure everything was done. Everything, the doctors needed something, she was there. She sat over my bed all night. Literally, she just sat up in a chair and just prayed for me all night while I was in there. And she never left me. And then some of the other girls came in there to check on me, and then they wouldn't let me go, so they made me stay there for a little while. And so, but I didn't want to be checked in to the hospital. I wanted to go home. And so I had to stay in the ER all night long, so that was a crazy night. But I'm so thankful that, you know, I was with the group of girls that I was with, because I knew I was taken care of, and I knew everything would be done right. Everything, the doctors they would tell the doctors whatever, and they were praying for me and just there with me, and so I wasn't scared at all, you know. So we get back to the room. We had to take this crazy cab ride back to the room, and we get back there, and that next day at that conference, Cece was going to sing at the conference, and I knew Sue had been wanting to see her sing, and she chose to stay with me in the room while the other girls went to the conference, and she just let me sleep there. She took me to her room. She let me sleep there and let me get a shower, and she just took care of me and kept me quiet and, and kept me calm. We came home, and I had just been feeling like, gosh, I felt so bad that she missed her favorite singer. I'm like, I felt so bad about that because I knew she really wanted to see Cece sing. And but she didn't. She sacrificed that to stay with me, and that just meant the world to me that she was there. And because being away from my mom, there wasn't really anybody else I'd want there with me but Mama Sue. And so she was there with me. And so I was feeling bad about her not being able to go, and so I was like, what can I do? And so I just began looking and searching, like, how can I get a hold of somebody who knows Cece, and I just started looking up all of her stuff. And so I just sent this email, and I explained what happened in this email. Like, we were at the Joyce Meyer conference, and this happened to me, and my pastor was there with me, and she didn't get to go. And so, like, I really want to do something special for her. And, like, so how can we set this up? And I just can't believe how easy it was. I mean, the guy was like, hey, like, Cece's she has church service, and I didn't know that she had her own church in Nashville. She's like, you can just come up to a church service and see her. And I was like, what? Like, it's that easy? I was like, she's that accessible? And, which I know not everybody can get to her, so I know this was a God thing because it was just way too easy. So I got a hold of Debbie West, and I was like, hey, I can get Sue to meet Cece. And so I was like, we got to set this up. So she gets it all set up, and then Pastor brings her out there, and I don't know what was going through her head when she got there and saw me there. She's probably like, what in the world are we doing here? What are you doing here? What am I doing here? I mean, I could just see her face. I mean, I could read her face. And so we were like, okay. We're like, I don't know. I was like, we'll just wait and see what we're doing here. So after church service, because I had actually gone up to the church service, and I got to be in her church service with her. And so they came up after our church services. And so she came out, and I mean, it was incredible. It was so incredible that she was able to meet with her and sing for her right there. And she could probably tell you more about how she felt about it. But it was an honor to be there with her, and it was a blessing. And so yeah, God just kind of put all that together, and I was able to just give that back to her, what she gave to me. I wanted to do for her. I didn't want her to have to miss out on something, and which I know she wouldn't have felt that way, but I just wanted to do something special for her to show her how special she was to me, and she is to me. So that was pretty awesome. So if you've been here at Life in Christ for a little while and you haven't found a place where you want to serve, or you're just like me, you're a shy person, and you're like, well, should I do that or should I not do that? You should do that. So Growth Track, I think, is a great class to go through, because this church is just growing all the time, and I see new people here all the time. And I think it's cool to see new people at the door, new people, in the nursery, and just new people serving, everywhere. And Chris and Heather do an amazing job with that class. And it really helped me find my place because, like I knew, I always, always enjoyed worship and wanted to be a part of it, but I didn't really know that I actually fit in there until I took the giftings test that we took, and it just that was my number one gifting was the worship, and so I'm so glad that I was able to go through that and find my place and help my confidence grow through that, and actually give back the giftings that I have for that, because I would never have just done that on my own. I would never have I would have sat in in the seats and just, I would have sat in the seats and worshiped, but I would have wanted more than that, you know. And so I'm glad that I went through that class and I was able to find my place here, because I think that's so important, not to just come to church and take up space, but come here and serve your heart out. I mean, if you are scrubbing floors or taking out the trash or scrubbing toilets, whatever it is, you're serving. And God smiles on that, and I think that that's pretty awesome. So Growth Track is a pretty good thing for you to go through. So I just want to encourage you to do that. No matter what you're going through, God is there with you. God is there to guide you. God just wants the best for you. Just let God lead. Don't be so impatient. Don't, keep trying to make things happen. Just let God guide you through that. And you're going to tire yourself out if you keep trying to do it by yourself. And it might seem like you're going through this long season, this hard season, and it feels like it's never going to end, but God's there with you. And don't give up. Listen to God's voice. Let His voice be the loudest. And stay strong, because the devil just wants to destroy you. He wants to kill you. But God wants to give you life, and He wants to give you your life with, so much abundance, and He wants to bless you and just pour His blessings down on you. So just don't lose hope, and just keep moving. My name is Natalie Morrison, and that was my story.